Let me center my chakra for a second. What is up, guys? Welcome back to my second channel, Shwab-Analysis. Last week I was recording some videos reacting to the music that you guys have sent me and giving some critique. I might have been a little harsh at times, but the purpose of this series is really to help you guys improve and give you some pointers, okay? So I'm not here to be kind and big you up and tell you how great your tracks are when they're not. I'm here to give you honest, useful advice, okay? So sorry if it comes off a little bit harsh at times, but the full purpose of this is to help you guys improve, okay?
Yeah. Let's hit it. Alright, it's destruction. And I'm loving the fact of death coming. And you're running, put all you in a dungeon. As you're numbing, watch your brethren fall to their knees as my heat turns them into nothing. Killing my enemies will not refrain, thinking you're gonna beat me. Burning it up, hurting your guts, make you afraid of what I could be. Cutting you down, I'm burning it up, staying calm within strategy. Nothing beats my energy, like my fire's heat. To me your death is imminent, nothing's different. Killing fake heroes cause their lives are just irrelevant. The world is lacking relevance, too much fakers, it's time that I settle it. Then you wanna say that it's development.
Kind of a mixed bag here of different types of comments. I'll start obviously the same as I did last time. I'll start with the positive stuff and then move into the more of the critique in a second. You sound quite young. I have no idea how old you are. You sound quite young, but to be honest, you have quite a decent voice. I'm really interested to hear how that voice is going to develop over time. You also have a very interesting voice. I guess you have an accent that I can't quite place. Certain words that you say sounds maybe Australian or from New Zealand. As some words it sounds almost South African, with like the eh vowel. It's hard to place, but it's an interesting accent, and stuff like that always works in your favor as a rapper. If you have kind of an interesting, unique voice, that's definitely something you should capitalize on and definitely not look to get rid of. Some critiques, I would say the ad-libs at times are a little much. You started the track with a lot of, yeah, and it's like, it's fine to throw a couple of those in, but like there was a ton of them throughout the tracks that, sounds reminiscent of Rustage's Kakashi rap. Not to meme too hard on Rustage, but I want to make a quick comment about recording setups. Obviously, if you record on a really high-end setup with a nice microphone, with a pop filter, into a audio interface, with the best DAW, obviously you have a bit of a head start in terms of getting your track to sound nicer. But at the same time, if you're a young person trying to start rapping and you don't have the money for that setup, if you don't want to invest in that setup, that's absolutely fine. Recording on your phone over a beat that you're playing on a speaker is fine. You can't expect, though, that songs of that quality then will perform nearly as well as someone who is using more of a clean recording setup. But if you're getting your start, and the only thing you have is a phone, and you can record to the voice memos, and you can play a beat over a speaker, that's totally cool. You do that because the more you can record, the more you can write, and the more you can practice, the better you will be. Some of the lines in there were a little bit sloppy. The flow falls off. Again, those lyrics, you haven't written the lyrics necessarily to fit to the beat totally. You've just written a line and you really want to fit it in, so you change how you perform it by slightly extending some of the syllables, or you slur syllables together, and it's a little bit sloppy. It's very obvious that you are a beginning artist, that you haven't written stuff for that long. But that being said, I think you are a lot better than a lot of other people who are kind of at the same level as you in terms of experience.
Time to save Basin, it's all out war. Shanks sworn not to, had to ignore. Got the ships coded to settle the score. Marines was a white beard, I've Marine forward. Time to save Basin, it's all out war. Shanks sworn not to, had to ignore. Got the ships coded to settle the score. Marines was a white beard, I've Marine forward. King of the sea, world's strongest man. I have no equal, try to understand. A pirate legend, creating peace. To every place I claim they cease. Not of the treasure, all about the fam. White beard, pirates, feared and loved in every land. Against all odds, we'll save Ace. Marines think twice, don't forget my first mate.
Okay. So that was NOLIMITSKING, his Marineford rap, the Whitebeard rap from One Piece. I don't know anything about One Piece, so I can't comment about the specifics of any of the bars, but generally I would say you have a decent voice, a good voice. It's not one that I hate, so I'll call it a good voice. The performance was okay, but it definitely needs to be clearer in places. Definitely during kind of the opening and closing stanzas, those, I guess, rap hooks, I would call them, that you put at the beginning and end. You slurred your words a little bit, and I had no idea. If I hadn't read the lyrics, I would have no idea what you were saying. The rhyme scheme was at times a bit dull and a bit boring, and kind of just the lines ran together without any kind of focus. There was no inner rhymes or anything interesting that stood out, and kind of, I feel like the whole purpose of a lot of songs in rap is to tell a story or convey an emotion and make the listener feel something. And one way you can do that is by tying these lines together to form these short kind of snippets of how you want the character to be portrayed, whether that's a part of the story, whether that's a certain emotion. You do that through inner rhymes, multisyllabic end rhymes, tying little stanzas together into little chunks that kind of tell a little bit of the story by themselves. I'm sorry if that's a bit cryptic. I don't have a very eloquent way to put it. Boring, kind of simplistic rhyme schemes don't help to tie parts of the song together and deliver them in a way that makes the listener feel anything. So they kind of fall flat and just fade into the background, and I just phase out and lose interest. One thing I would say about maybe the mix is that it definitely you need to focus on the mix a little bit more to make the vocals pop a little more, give those lines that are supposed to have punch a bit of punch, and also maybe include some ad-libs or some backup vocals, something just to make it a bit thicker and a bit more interesting than just kind of the flat one tone delivery throughout the full thing, if that makes sense. Saying that you switched up your tone, but it's difficult to do that without throwing in those backup vocals and ad-libs to really pump up certain lines and punchlines and stuff like that.
What do you see? A thug dealing drugs, my daughter and I. Heroes don't be batting an eye, no need to cry when the heroes all die. The word is played by quirk, people thinking that they work, but we'll see about that when society crumbles away. Like when Thanos snapped that day, the Avengers they got played. Soon that'll how it be, but we can fix that. Yakuza and airy, I know it's scary, but I don't give a damn. Mess with us and then you'll hear a bam.
Straight off the bat, you need to work on your delivery. Your vocal style is very dull at times, and you don't have a lot of clarity to a lot of the lines that you're obviously trying to land kind of a big punchline on just don't land because the delivery doesn't facilitate it. You need to work on kind of how you choose to put emphasis into certain words and certain syllables in order to actually make them hit like you obviously want them to. You were offbeat at times, and interestingly, it didn't sound like you were rapping to the 4/4 time signature that the beat is obviously in. This is obviously a mistake because there's no way a beginning rapper would do this shit on purpose. The beat that you are rapping to, as almost every beat ever made is in a time signature called 4/4. What that means is that it's clearly laid out. There are 4 beats per kind of bar, and there are 4 bars per stanza. And the way that you were recording, though, is that instead of working to that 4-bar stanza, you were recording kind of 3 bars a lot of the time, which, I mean, eventually does end in the same place as recording 4-bar stanzas would. It's just bizarre. So a rhyme scheme, typically, even in the laziest written song in 4/4, would be line 1 rhymes with line 2, line 2 rhymes with line 3, line 3 rhymes with line 4. Okay, you have a stanza, a paragraph of text with the end rhymes all link up together. That's typical. What you were doing is you would have 2 bars that rhymed with each other, and then the next one would totally switch to something else. And that would go on for 3 bars. So total, you have a 5-bar stanza, which just keeps throwing me off. It seems to have no clear rhythm or structure, even though it does eventually come back around and fit within the constraints of the kind of 16-bar verse. It's just all over the place. You almost hit on an interesting floor at a couple of points. You had the line, gunshots, go off, and then you kind of kept bringing that back, and it was like an interesting little flow that I was like, oh, okay, this might be something, but it never really developed into anything interesting, and very quickly fell off again, because like I said, you weren't even sticking to that typical like 4-bar structure, so the whole thing felt really wonky. Plus, just a lot of the lines didn't rhyme with each other. I don't know if you were attempting slant rhymes or or what, but there was a lot of lines in there that just stood by themselves without rhyming anything.
Killing the seed is my calling. A purpose is life that's appalling. I'm a swordsman at heart, never gonna get a chance to show my sword art. I'm chained to this town, the one where I lost my love. I'm gonna hunt her down, her in the memory of the girl she was, not the monster she's become. We're not in control of our lives, that trust is given to her eyes, while the Pontifex fills us with lies. It's the ones like me she despised, so it took me by surprise when she offered up those thighs.
Okay, so very first thing, it's obvious you have an accent. I can't quite tell where you're from. Again, that interesting accent, that unique voice. I'd love to hear that in rap, and I kind of wish it was a bit more prominent, if that makes sense. Not, you know, I don't want you to ham it up, but I really want to hear more of that. And I think that goes into the delivery of a lot of the lines were kind of flat. What I've written in my notes here sounds a bit harsh, but I'm going to say it anyway. What I've written is it needs more passion. There seemed to be very little driving passion in a lot of those lines. Obviously, I don't know anything about the story or the character, but the lyrics that you'd written seem to be quite emotionally charged. So the fact that you haven't then come out with a very powerful, hard-hitting performance that matches the lyrical content makes it really kind of flat and boring, which is upsetting because I feel like it could have been a lot better than it was. Some positives, you recorded basically the entire thing was on beat. It slipped very slightly sometimes when you couldn't fit the lyrics into the flow you were going for, so you elongated words, like when you said time to say goodbye or whatever it was. That was such a short phrase you were trying to fit into a full, like, half a measure, so you just stretched it out and it sounded really lame. But for the vast majority it was really on beat, and I think you've got a lot of the basics about kind of writing at very least down. So the lyrics, I have no complaints about the lyrics. They weren't the best lyrics in the world, but they were by far better than some of the other stuff I've heard from people with similar experience. So yeah, definitely good. One major criticism, and this is less about rap and more about the video, no outro. If you are uploading music to YouTube, please God, do not include an intro or outro. If people are trying to listen to music on YouTube, they do not want to hear an intro. They do not want to hear an outro. They want to hear the track. Okay? There is a certain amount of information you can put on screen. You can have an end card that has some information. That's what I do. That's what a lot of folks do. You can have an intro as the instrumental's playing. You can put text on the screen, but do not record an outro. People are really hesitant to put tracks like this in a playlist on YouTube because there's a minute of outro in the end. They don't want to listen to that when they're listening to their music. Especially since I don't think you have any of these tracks on Spotify or Apple Music, so there's no alternative either. This is the only way they can listen to the track. So if they like it, but you've got a minute-long outro, they're much, much less likely to come back to it and listen to it in a playlist. For a first attempt, this is very good. So keep doing it, I guess. Keep at it, yeah. Focus on your delivery, work with some backup vocals, and listen to your voice in the mix and how you can improve its mixing to make it stand out. And do not include an outro on your YouTube videos. That is it for my criticism of that video, though. Okay, that's it. That is all the music I've been sent so far. I'm going to include my email address either at the outro of this video or down below. If you want me to review and critique your songs, I will be making videos like this in the future, so please make sure to send it to me at my email address. I will not review tracks sent to me by Discord or Twitter, so please do not send me anything to those. I hope you guys found this critique helpful. I hope that you took on board some of this advice and that it helps you with your future music. I really, really don't want anyone to listen to these videos and be discouraged from making music. That's the last thing I want. I really want you guys to hear what I'm saying now and take it on board and use it to improve your sound and improve your work, okay? I want you guys to keep making tracks, so please do take it on board as constructive criticism, okay? With that being said, that's everything for today, so thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.